There is power in a story, and we all have a story. Our stories, if told, can inspire, encourage, and motivate. Hi, I am Rhonda, and welcome to the Book of Lives. Hi everyone, welcome to the Book of Lives. Today we're going to hear the story of an educator and motivational speaker. His name is Carl. Carl, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Carl, on the Book of Lives, we are all about stories, and stories have beginnings. Tell us a bit about your beginning. Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? Okay, I grew up in inner city St. Louis. That's where I grew up, born and raised. And a little bit about my beginning. Hey, I love St. Louis. It's my hometown of 314. Nothing like it, right? I probably got more St. Louis pride than Nelly. I kid you not, right? I promise I do. But it's one of those things where you also have to understand St. Louis, according to research, right, was the worst place in the entire country to
raise. St. Louis, Missouri, right?
St. Louis, Missouri, yes. To clarify, yes. It was the worst place in the country to raise a Black American child. Okay.
Why was that so? Why?
Based on the studies and the research, what they did was they based it on educational opportunity, okay, or lack thereof. Also, community development or community advancement. Also, opportunity for employment advancement, right, and career. If you notice in St. Louis, it's getting a lot better now, which most places are, right? But it's one of those things where there weren't a lot of full-time positions that people who did not have a 4-year degree can get.
Okay.
So it's one of those things, like example, when they built Busch Stadium, which is one of the most historic stadiums in baseball, is where the St. Louis Cardinals play.
Yes.
We're a baseball town, right? The Cardinals have the second most World Series wins in the history of the MLB, behind the New York Yankees. But and Busch Stadium is historic, Ozzie Smith staying usual, but they were supposed to create a bunch of full-time employment or positions and career jobs for people, to have benefits and all of the above, but ended up creating a bunch of part-time jobs to work there. So when you think about buildings and corporations coming into St. Louis, like we have Monsanto there now, we have different headquarters in there, things there. But a lot of times they include these part-time positions and not so much always the full-time, which that's changing. But, full-time positions for people that don't have 4-year degrees. Well, 80% of the population, of the Black population in St. Louis, did not have college degrees, or, 80% or more. So,
what were some of your struggles growing up? What were some of the struggles?
Some of my struggles. Woo, that's
quite a bit, huh?
I grew up in a home where I would say my mother. I grew up in a home where my mother, she was a God-fearing woman, right? I always make a joke and say, on the spectrum of life, and when you go down a ladder, there's God himself, there's Mother Teresa, and there's Carl Stafford, right? Like, my mother never said a cuss word in front of me. She's never, been disrespectful. She's always shown me how to do nothing but love and put those little foundations in me, right? However, and there's no however, I'm going to say period. On the other hand,
yes,
St. Louis and that environment, what people don't understand is, if you're in an environment where it's so rough, it doesn't matter how much or how good things are, even in the home, how much you're trying. Oftentimes, the trying is just not enough, right? So that's why most of the men and most of the friends I grew up with, the male friends I grew up with, are either most dead, and some are in jail if they were lucky. And I say if they were lucky because the only reason they're probably not dead is because they were locked up. But growing up, it was me and my brother. My father died suddenly. He was a great person, but it's one of those things where, just some things got the best of him. And he was suddenly died. And, obviously it was a suicide. And that was really hard. I was going on 6. And so going on, all these family members that's dying and getting killed, and it's just a never ending cycle of this stuff happening, and it was rough. If you take the ACE test, the Adverse Childhood Trauma Test, and that's how a lot of people evaluate trauma and what people have been through.
Yes.
I score a 10 out of 10. based on my childhood experiences. Basically, meaning they say if you score a 4 or if they say you score a 4 out of 10, they're like, sound the alarm. You need to get help now, right? Like, because based on the research and the studies, you are like 100 times more likely to be homeless, 1,000 times more likely to commit suicide, 100,000 times more likely. You know, your likeliness of things, it turns into from this possibility to this probability of more than likely this can happen to you if you don't, you know, get the help you need because of what it does to a childhood brain. So it was really tough.
But, you know, although it was tough and although, you know, you said you have that high score and it puts you at greater risk for quite a number of things, you still excelled and you still succeeded. Why? Why do you think that was the case?
I'll be honest with you. I don't mean to get too religious in there. God, my faith, you know, it was my faith, pure faith. You know, it's one of those things where I tell people, 1, my faith. 2, I was crazy. I'm crazy. You know,
when you say you were crazy, what do you mean?
I'm crazy. When I say I'm crazy, I mean I really can see things bigger than myself, right? Okay. I'm crazy. I mean that I could sit in a house that, you know, sometimes the conditions were so messed up, which they will cut our gas off in the winter, which is illegal, by the way. They will cut our gas off in the winter, and I could see my own breath while I'm wrapped up in the winter. I would have to boil water on an electric hot place to just take baths to cleanse myself, take cold showers sometimes in -2-degree weather. You're talking about these splintering cold conditions and these hard conditions. And I would literally sit down and just imagine. I would dream of a life where I will excel, right? Yes. I would see it in my head. I would play it in my head like, oh man, there's something bigger than this. I always believed there was something bigger. And that obviously was the primary function of my faith.
Yes.
You know, there's a God out there that's going to put something in me to where this is going to teach me something and it's going to do something for me that's going to be greater than myself.
Yes.
Outside of my own situation and myself, pretty much. And that's honestly how it's happened. Everything else, I had some nice people come along. I had some really people help me out. But, you know, that's really not enough if you don't have the mindset of something bigger than yourself in certain situations.
Yes. I like that you said, you know, in spite of all that was going on around you, outside of you, you were dreaming. On the inside, you were dreaming. You were, you know, anticipating better. And that is quite important. I truly believe that. That was quite important. So, Carl, at what point in all of this did you decide, you know what, I'm going to be an educator. I'm going to be a motivational speaker?
Well, that's interesting. When I was in college, you know, and I'll make this brief. When I was in college, I was sitting in a class. I actually went to college to be a professional actor.
Okay.
I actually was an all-state football player. I was an all-state actor. I had all these honors, all-state singing, acting, football, all these honors. And I lost over 20 plus scholarships because I had a 2.4 GPA and I had a 18 or something ACT. I mean, my GPA wasn't great. I got a lot of scholarships pulled from me. And it was football scholarships, all the rest of this stuff. So I went to this deep depression, went to community college, actually transferred to Northwest Missouri State. I was sitting in an education class. I was studying to be a professional actor, okay?
Yes.
Sitting in this education class, they put up these education statistics on a board. And I look at the statistics in St. Louis and Kansas City, preferably, you know, pretty much the inner city specifically. And I asked a question to the teacher. I said, why are the Black kids in these Missouri schools graduating at a less than a 50% rate, right? Because this was like 2008. It's gotten better. They found ways. It hasn't gotten better. They found ways to make it better, but that's another conversation, or make it look better. But anyway, I said, there's no way these kids don't know it. I grew up in the hood, but the dope dealers, the gang bangers, these were some of the smartest, most strategically minded dudes that I knew, right? There has to be a disconnect somewhere, right? So that's when I started to research things like Ebonics with Dr. Robert Williams, right? He lives in St. Louis and WashU. He created Ebonics, which is the Black vernacular English, Black English, Ebony Phonics. So when he invented it, he created something, right, called I'm gonna just say the BITCH test. Now, excuse me, I ain't saying nothing bad. The test it stands for the Black Intellectual Test of Cultural Homogeneity. Okay. What he did was he took the standardized test, He gave the same test that these black kids were scoring the lowest on, these Hispanic kids were scoring the lowest on. He took it and put Ebonics into the phrasing, into the wording, gave them that test, and guess who scored the highest on the same exact standardized test that the suburban white kids were scoring on? It was the black kids.
Mm-hmm.
Scored the lowest, the suburban white kids. And it started to show these different educational prejudices in the system for someone who's in a city, person of color, pretty much, right? So when I saw that, I'm like, no, there's no way these people I grew up with in the inner city of St. Louis, Kansas City, are not learning or not graduating. Why aren't they graduating? Why aren't people having them graduate? That day I said, I wonder why when I was getting bad grades in school, but in college I just flourished because I found out how smart I was and how gifted I was. But the teachers couldn't necessarily pull it out of me. It's not no fault of their own. I had some good educators, but you need different. Some kids need different. So when I go into a classroom, I may bust out a rap song. I may joke and roast them and joan on them, right? Like, they're not my friends. I tell them, I don't need friends. I got enough friends. I ain't friends with kids. I don't play with you. But yes. But I love y'all. And they hear those words for the first time. Sometimes I love y'all.
Yes.
Dude, why does this big black dude tell us he loves us? What? I love y'all. Like y'all, mm-hmm. I care about your education. Yes. I will do whatever it takes. So the first time I go to their house, they can come up to school, beating on the door. Mr. Stafford, is that you? Yeah, that's me. Your home address is in Power School. What you doing? Right? Like, they're like, what is wrong with this dude? I told you I'm crazy about education. I told you I'm crazy, period. Yes. So you're going to come to school, right? So what made me become an educator was that I said, I need to be different. This is the days before all of this stuff was going on. Yes. The days before it was cool to do electronics in class and stuff. I was doing this stuff back in 2014 when people were still lecturing and using pencil and paper to do their stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I went completely electronic in 2014. So I was like, these kids need something different. If I can use rap music to explain Shakespeare's iambic pentameters, couldn't they still learn it?
Yes.
If I can use different movies to explain the Greek mythology stories of Lysistrata, couldn't they still learn it? Mm-hmm. That's how I was thinking. And I'm telling you, I think unlike most other teachers still, right? I just think differently. My thinking is, how can these students get it? Not necessarily, am I just so smart and I'm so mighty and up here, high and mighty, that these kids are going to get. No. How can these kids get what I'm trying to teach them? And if I got to stand up on the desk, if I got to be a roly-poly on the desk, if I got to jump up and down, if I got to do jumping jacks for them to learn and ace their test, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be proficient in what I do, no matter what I have to do to get it.
Yeah. You're an out-of-the-box thinker. I like that. That. Carl, so in life we have ups and downs, but the human spirit is quite resilient. Recently when we spoke, you told me you encountered some health challenges and you decided to make some significant changes in your own life. You became your own motivator, Tell me about that.
Well, I have encountered some health challenges over the years. I have asthma, which there's nothing I really do about that, but I high blood pressure, obstructive sleep apnea. I had to have my knee pretty much. I was playing sports and trying to actually work out before and play basketball and trying to do the same moves I was doing, and ended up rupturing my patellar tendon a couple of years back, had knee surgery, got my gallbladder taken out. You just get these things over and over. I had bleeding ulcers in my stomach from stress before, and then gaining weight, got the most weight I've ever gained. I got to that point. And then something happened in my life recently, right, that just pretty much shook my world upside down. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there one night and I had, whoppers of something in my hand. I was eating and something said to myself, man, you're going to eat yourself to death. You're going to basically not carry yourself to death, right? Because the problem isn't necessarily the eating. The eating is a symptom. Yeah. The problem is the deeper root of what's going on. So, when you have strong roots, I once heard this, when you have strong roots, there's no way the wind can blow to even affect it. Yeah. So based on sometimes the winds of depression, the winds of the hardest moments in our lives will hit us sometimes. And we feel like, well, now we're shook up, right? We have nowhere to go, but I have to get to the root of it, because no matter how many awards I won, no matter what happened, nothing was going to change the fact that I scored a 10 out of 10 on the ACE test. That there's a lot of neglect that I felt when I was younger. There's a lot of abuse that I incurred, that I endured when I was younger. There's a lot of things I saw. Nothing's going to affect the fact that I saw people get shot. Nothing's going to affect the fact that I watched people die. Nothing's going to change that. And your brain is your most powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
The most powerful body part. Powerful part. So I had to get with my brain and say, okay, dude, we hitting this head on.
Yes.
You know, and I'm in the process of doing it. I'm in the process of, the therapy, the trauma therapy, trauma-informed care I'm going through. I'm going back to these things. I'm setting up self-assessment plans. I'm reading about 4 books right now on different things in my life. This has been retraining my brain. That's what it's about. You know, it's not easy.
Tell me, because, we also spoke about purpose and mission, and I know you're big on that. Tell me a little bit about how this ties in now with purpose and mission. Your purpose and your mission.
Purpose and mission. I mean, you look at, to me, I don't believe in all these fairy tale stories and all this. I mean, obviously I believe in blessings and coincidences, but faith isn't really. I have this saying, faith is maybe of the 10%, right? 90% of life, God puts you in a position to excel. You just got to do it, right?
Yes. You got to do the hard work.
Exactly. You got to do the hard work. You're right. You look back at the story of the Israelites in the desert on this trip that should only took them 11 days, and they end up being there for 40 years, and then get to there until Joshua led them into the land God promised them. Why are we wandering around sometimes, right? Like I was thinking of this book I just read, As a Man Thinketh. You are your thoughts. As a man or as a woman, as you think it, so you are.
Yes.
So some days I wake up, I don't my body naturally don't want us to be happy, right? I don't want to be happy. I don't want to face the hard stuff, but I just do it because repetition gets through there. And that's how you define your purpose.
Yes.
Your jobs and what you do, that's not your purpose. Your job is what you're called for. Your purpose and your calling is what you're made for, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it is. Your job is what I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Your job is what you're paid for.
Yes.
Your calling and purpose is what you're made for.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Steve Harvey. I didn't mean to mess up your quotation.
That's okay.
But that's what it is. I had to say, what's my calling? My calling, I used to say, it's to help people. Well, that's too general. It's not my calling. It's not my purpose, right? God has me here. I call myself, the human punching bag, right? Because no matter what happens, them chains ain't gonna break, and I ain't gonna break down. It's gonna punch me in. It's gonna inflate. It's gonna deflate a little bit, but I'm gonna inflate back.
Yes.
No matter what happens, you can punch this bag as hard as you can, right? But you hit it too hard, you'll break your hand, right? Because life's gonna hit me, but it ain't gonna break me.
Yeah.
That's not what's gonna happen. So that's what it is. Dr. King said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands at time the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in times of confident convenience. Is where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Mm-hmm. I'm standing.
You're standing.
That's not cocky. That's not this. No, I got faith. I'm a child of God. I'm someone that sees bigger than myself. I call myself an axis tilter. There are different people in this world. There's people out there that's willing to level the way the pendulum's swinging into a good location, right? So there's people that's going to do those small things, right? The people that's going to go to work every day, raise a good family, and do what they need to do and dedicate themselves to that and do amazing at that. Mm-hmm. Then there's people that's going to do a little more, right? May have a few bake sales for the neighborhood, may do what they need to do, may just care about the community and what they have in that small vicinity, right? And those are kind of be the people that's going to get that pendulum swinging the right way.
Yeah.
Right? The levelers, you got the ones that's going to swing it the right way, but then you got the axis tilter, the people that's going to tilt society on its back. I just got to figure it out. Millions of people are going to hear what I got to say. Billions of people are going to hear what I got to say.
Awesome.
And they're going to be impacted by it. I just, it's just going to figure it out. And I got to go through more and more. But the more hurt I go through, there's more content that I have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Carl, before we go, what advice do you want to leave for young people? Since you are an educator to young folk, and you are a motivational speaker to young folk, what do you want the young people to know?
You ain't figured it all out. No matter how smart you are, no matter how successful you are, there's another layer, right? Life is like an onion, right? It's not like a box of chocolates like Forrest Gump said, which I get it. You never know what you want to get. Yeah. But it's also like an onion. Life has layers, right? And in different areas of life, you're going to go to your layers. But guess what? The onion can stop right? You can dice it if you want to. You can be done. But if you're going to sit there and really, truly peel that onion, the layers are going to be almost never ending. And this is how life is. You're always going to have different journeys and different things going to approach you. Know who you are, have integrity, have faith, and have purpose, right? Some of my favorite things is the Amish proverb, never look down on a man unless you're bending down to help him up.
Mm-hmm.
Always go learn to somebody at their level to what they do. You never know what they can teach you,
Yes.
right? And so you have to understand that everything serves a purpose. You know, my favorite Bible verse is Romans 8:28, and we know that all things happen, good or bad, for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And then there's this book that I'm writing called Life in the Garden, right? And I go back on the time that I work in Lowe's outside lawn and garden and how I learned about what the different flowers and the purpose they had in life. But you have to understand about life. Everyone's in your life for either a season or a reason, right? And you look at the three types of flowers. You look at, or the three types of plants. We got more, but you got the perennials, you got the annuals, and you got the shrubs, right? The annuals are those flowers that's only there for a season. Some people only in life for a season. Let them go if they go, right? They serve the purpose for you. Then you got perennials. They come back every year around the same time. You may not talk all the time, you may not see them, but some people are going to be solid for you to lean on when you need them to in more than one season of your life. But eventually, there is a time for them to go. Other people are shrubs. These are going to be the people that's there every single season. No matter what season of your life you're going through, you're going to have those people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you got to remember. You cannot have all shrubs. You cannot have all perennials. You cannot have all annuals because the garden will not look good. You need every flower. You need a diversity. You need a variety in your garden in order to truly have the blessings in the garden of life.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rhonda. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
All right. And for those of you who are watching, thank you. Until next time, stay inspired.